Hello and welcome to Side History. The B-17 Flying Fortress is perhaps one of the most iconic airplanes of the Second World War. It fought in nearly every campaign and every theater, and was the backbone of the Allied strategic bombing campaign over Germany. And today we're going to talk about 5 things that you may not know about the B-17 bomber. Among the many pilots that flew the B-17 during World War II, a few were either famous or would become famous later on. Topping the list is Clark Gable. Perhaps his most famous role was the leading man in Gone with the Wind. As an actor, he had 67 films to his credit. In 1941, Gable enlisted in the Army Air Corps and worked his way up through the ranks. Using his skills as a filmmaker, he flew and filmed 5 combat missions in a B-17. Tom Landry was best known as the head coach for the Dallas Cowboys from 1960 until 1988. During the war, he flew 30 combat missions in B-17s between 1944 and 1945. Another famous individual was Norman Lear. He created some of television's most iconic series in the 1970s, including All in the Family, The Jeffersons, and Sanford & Son. During the war, he served as a radio operator and a gunner on 50 combat missions in a B-17. And Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry flew as many as 80 missions in the B-17 in the Pacific Theater during the war. The B-17 is largely regarded as a durable, long-range bomber, but it played an important and unique role in developing the drone aircraft we use today. At least 25 B-17s were converted to BQ-7 Aphrodite missiles for Operation Aphrodite in the later stages of World War II. They were equipped with radio controls, television cameras, and carried 20,000 pounds of bombs and heavy explosives. The operation, which consisted of an escorting CQ-17 mothership, controlled the aircraft remotely, piloting the Aphrodite drones onto their targets. They flew a total of 14 combat missions, but the drone bombers failed to do any significant damage to their targets. A mysterious mid-air explosion of a B-24 over the Blythe estuary ended the endeavor. The Aphrodite project was abandoned in the early months of 1945 due to the British officials' concern that similar accidents could happen again. After the war, surplus B-17 bombers were used as drone aircraft for atmospheric sampling during the Operation Crossroads atomic bomb tests in 1946. They were so successful that the B-17s continued to be used for atomic testing as well as targets for surface-to-air and air-to-air missiles. A total of 177 B-17s were converted into drones. The Flying Fortress was saved by a government loophole. Whenever the U.S. military purchases a new piece of equipment, whether it be a tank, a plane, or a gun, they have manufacturers compete for the contract. In 1934, the U.S. government needed a replacement for the aging Martin B-10 bomber. The prototype B-17 that was submitted by Boeing for the contract was called the Model 299. Unfortunately for Boeing, during the final phase of the competition, the Boeing Model 299 could not complete the last test due to its crashing, and the contract was awarded to the Douglas DB-2. However, all hope was not lost for Boeing. The Army was so impressed by the performance of the Boeing bomber, it found a loophole and ordered 13 B-17s, designated at the time as YB-17s, for service testing. The U.S. Army Air Corps continued to order B-17s, and Boeing continued to refine its design in the years leading up to the war. By the time of America's entry into the war in late 1941, the Army Air Corps had purchased 155 B-17s, giving the United States a considerable number of advanced long-range bombers at the very start of the war. Number 4, it was tough. One example of the B-17's famous ruggedness was the All-American. It was a name given to a B-17 Flying Fortress, which had gone head-to-head against a German Bf-109 in the skies over Tunisia. The German Bf-109 had rammed itself into the All-American, severely damaging it. The rear fuselage of the B-17 was nearly cut off, but the pilot managed to fly the aircraft safely back to their base in Algeria. After a detailed analysis of fighter attacks on the B-17, it was found by the Germans that, on average, about 20 hits with 20mm shells were required to bring down a B-17. Pilots could only hit with about a 2% accuracy during the war, so a pilot would almost have to fire 1,000 rounds of ammunition before the B-17 could be brought down. A single B-17 Flying Fortress cost $280,329 in 1945. What did the Army Air Corps get for its money? One characteristic feature of the B-17 was the use of the high-precision Norden bomb sight. The sight allowed for effective bombing at a height of more than 23,000 feet. Boeing and the U.S. Army continued to refine the B-17 Flying Fortress throughout the war. The G model was the best. Almost 9,000 B-17G models were produced. The B-17G weighed 65,000 pounds and could reach a service ceiling of 35,600 feet and carry a payload of 9,600 pounds. By war's end, it had certainly earned its nickname the Flying Fortress. The B-17G model was armed with 13 50 caliber machine guns in total. This included 2 guns in each waist position, 4 guns in the front of the aircraft, 2 guns in the top turret, 2 guns in the belly turret, 2 guns in the tail, and 1 in the radio compartment. The B-17 was exactly the aircraft the Allies needed at the beginning of the war. It was not only tough enough, but it could also carry enough payload to make a difference in the war effort. It also gave its crews a good chance to survive combat. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel out.